And now we're going to move on to our next guest. We have Addie here from Varro Life Sciences, who is another one of our wonderful groups doing a bunch of really rad open healthware work. Hi, Addie. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you guys?
We're doing Not too bad. We're having a great time.
It looks like it. It looks like it. Looks like a lot of fun.
It is.
Well, I'm excited to join you guys today and to talk about hidden threats. So without further ado, let me dive right in. All right, let's see if I can maneuver this because I have not maneuvered this in this way before. I am having difficulties with controls over here. Let me shift if I could really quickly. Apologies for this last minute challenge. Got to appreciate it. All right, everybody see my screen? I'm going to assume yes. We're going to go with that. All right, so I'm Addie with Varro, and I want to talk to you about hidden threats today and how Varro is making the invisible visible. To start, I want to talk through going to the grocery store. So let's picture that you have a list of things that you need to go pick up, and you enter your grocery store, you walk through the produce section, pick out a couple of fruits and vegetables, head over to grab a loaf of bread, move on to get a chocolate bar because it's Monday and it's definitely Monday and you need that chocolate bar. You forgot the laundry detergent, go grab that. Say hi to a neighbor you bump into as you're rushing up to the clerk. You go to check out, you make small talk. She asks if you have coupons. Do you want to buy stamps? The person who's bagging the groceries is smiling at you, and you leave. In this encounter, do you think anything concerning happened? You were in there for 10 minutes. I would imagine that most people think, no, seemed pretty standard. Weren't any threats to be seen. And so I want to bring up an experiment that was done. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with it, called the Invisible Gorilla Experiment. And what it did was it talked about selective attention. So in this, people were told to count how many times the ball was passed between the members on the white team, and they were moving around in a circle. And I don't know if you're like me, but I was honed in. I was going to know exactly how many times that ball was passed. And it really proved that we see what we're focused on, but sometimes we miss really critical information happening right in front of us, because in this experiment, in the midst of that ball being passed, someone in a gorilla suit walks directly through the middle of the screen, stopping to beat their chest as they're in the center and continue walking on. And I didn't see the gorilla at all. And I think we all are capable of missing critical information that happens right around us. The grocery store trip is one such event. What is the hidden threat? It's airborne pathogens. So a pathogen is a microorganism that can cause disease within the host who's exposed to it. And airborne pathogens can come as viral, bacterial, fungal, even allergies or allergens pass through the air. And they all impact us when we are exposed to them. And so for individuals, we all know when we're sick. You know, we can feel that. I don't feel well. But we don't know when we're exposed. We have no idea when we're exposed. And so because we don't know when we're exposed, we don't know when it's the appropriate time to start taking mitigating steps, preventative measures, start taking heavy doses of zinc, whatever the case may be. Airborne pathogens are a real threat, and we need to figure out how big of a threat are they? Is this something that we should all be aware of? And so the data and the science on it shows that it's rapidly escalating, pathogen-based pandemics and epidemics. As you can see here in this chart, which is by no means extensive, it's grown over the years, and it's getting worse. In fact, the National Academy of Science suggests that there is a 76% probability that in the next decade, we will face another pandemic like COVID. And that's not something that gives anybody comfort, because nobody wants to face that again or be challenged with that. And so we have to ask ourselves, what can we do? What do we need to do in order to prepare? How do we take preventative measures and positive, proactive steps? Well, the very first thing that we all have to do is we have to detect that it exists, right? In the grocery store, you're just running through the store, breathing air as we all normally do, having no idea that there could be a nasty pathogen like the one pictured here impacting you. So disease prevention starts with detection. Let's think about that. When it comes time for you being sick, you don't know what treatment to take, what preventative steps to take, until you understand what it is you're facing. In fact, rapid deployment of diagnostic testing is completely dependent. Treatment is completely dependent on the rapid deployment of diagnostic testing. Not only that, but when you think about the spread of disease, it can't be stopped unless you have real-time intelligence for proactive interventions. You have to know where it is. You have to be informed about where it is. Some of the areas that are concerning are diagnostic testing or detecting infections. So there are 4. I'm sure there are others that people can think of, but let's just work through these. The first one is readout time. So a diagnostic test could take anywhere from 15 minutes to an hour to a week to get that is interesting, and a weakness in diagnostic testing is the invasiveness of these tests. I'm sure we all remember during COVID that very pleasant Q-tip up the nose for a prolonged period of time in order to get to complete the test. That's really not comfortable. Nobody enjoys that. Tests are typically invasive. Another thing is they can be quite expensive. You know, to know what your health status is with regard to one pathogen with any kind of regularity is expensive. And last, and not to be diminished in any way, is the adaptability to new pathogens. Often, when you have a diagnostic test, it's for a specific pathogen. That's it, one pathogen, and that's all it can do. But as we looked at in the chart earlier, we're seeing an escalation in pandemics and epidemics as time goes on. And so it's really important that we don't lose any time when something emerges that could be a threat, similar to like what COVID was for all of us. And that's where Varro Life Science kind of enters the picture. We are an organization that is passionate about transforming the way the world detects and responds to airborne pathogens. We're committed to open source as a member of the Open Source Hardware Association, and we are actively pursuing our certification, which we hope to accomplish very soon for all of our technology. We also were able to engage in the open healthware conversations that have happened throughout the year, which are really exciting as the healthware world is in need of open source practices. We spoke at the conference that was hosted in New York in August, and we're very much looking forward to continuing our relationship with both, because we think it's vital to build community around solutions and continue the innovation so that we can always be ready to address whatever new challenges we face. So let's talk about our technology. The first thing that we have created is a microimmunoelectrode, which is a biosensor. And it is the key technology that makes the invisible visible. So what makes it so special? Well, this particular design is adaptable to various different pathogens. Right now, our capabilities are influenza A, influenza B, and COVID-19, but it can be changed to any emerging pathogen. Right now, we're looking at about a 4-week time from the identification of an emerging pathogen to being able to create an MIE that houses that pathogen and can be tested across the world. So it's truly a platform technology where one technology offers multiple applications. And we're really excited to be able to build it. And we are constantly working on making it as efficiently and dispersed around the world, as well as cost efficient so that people can use it everywhere. The next thing that we have is a breath-based diagnostic. Now, the MIE goes into the breath-based diagnostic, and this is a simple 60-second solution. You breathe into the tube on the device, and it will give you a readout as to whether or not you have the pathogen in your breath. And that detection is under 60 seconds. So you can know your status before any kind of symptoms appear, which is an incredibly empowering thing for an individual to know as you go about your life. It can be the difference between going out to a restaurant or ordering in because you know. The other device that we have is the air biodetector, which is a continuous environmental monitor or air quality monitoring system. So it is a standalone device, or it could be in the HAVAC system, and it will run and monitor what kind of pathogens are in that indoor closed space. So imagine an early warning system where you can have an alert before people start to be symptomatic, right? Because oftentimes you don't know where you were exposed. Was it the concert last week or lunch yesterday? When did that happen? And so with an air biodetector, an indoor monitoring unit for shared spaces, you can build out not just a warning system that'll tell you the pathogen is here. It equips those businesses and individuals to then decide what kind of preventative measures or mitigating steps they can take for the inhabitants of that shared space, which is a really powerful thing. So let's take a minute and think about where these technologies kind of change everything for the way that we operate currently. When you think about being in a healthcare setting, right? If you're in a hospital or a clinic, having a early advanced warning when something is spreading protects the patients. It also protects the employees. When you talk about workplace environments, if you are able to detect pathogens in a workplace environment, you probably are going to have an action plan that can mitigate those risks, which would diminish sick time, right? It would increase productivity and help business continuity as a whole. In public spaces, whether you're in daycare as an infant or all the way through university, you have the capacity to go into your classroom or your auditorium and know what kind of pathogens are in there, as well as entertainment venues or something as simple as buying shoes or a book or going and picking up your prescription. You now would know that that environment is safe. Of course, transportation is a huge one, whether you're in a car or on a train, in a boat, maybe even an airplane someday, as well as just the physical structures and smart infrastructure in the world around us. You could put it in HAVAC systems, and there's all kinds of ways to inform about the air that is in your environment. We know that this is cutting edge, right? For all of time that human have existed, we have not known what is in the air around us. We walk through our lives without that information, and it's critical information, very critical for our health, for the health of the people around us, for our families, for our communities. And so in order to advance this and build this and create a healthier environment for all of us, we really want to invite innovators to help build this future together, because this is a new space. This is critical information that had been hiding, but doesn't need to be anymore. And as you go through any endeavor, it's important to think about questions that you should ask and how this could apply and why this might be impactful or important in your environment. So I've written down a couple of questions that I think are good to consider, like, what existing infrastructure could be enhanced with pathogen detection? Imagine if you had that, and what would be the impact of it? When I think about real-time pathogen monitoring transforming my life, I think about allergens, what that would mean to me to know what allergen and how it could impact my life changes the way that I go through my day, and maybe makes my life a little bit more pleasant because I don't have a runny nose for the rest of that day. There's all kinds of applications, and we really would love to have as many people as possible build out and consider for their environment how they could help reveal this hidden threat. So I want to take us back to the grocery store really quickly and think through what going in the grocery store would be like if these things were available, or if you brought them to your local grocer. First and foremost, before you even went to the grocery store, you could take a breath-based diagnostic and know whether or not you were healthy before you went to the store. So you could make different choices if need be to protect yourselves and those around you. Also, when you got to the store, they could have an air biodetector that would alert them for pathogens that are there. And because they know that the pathogens are there, because they're watching it, they could have an action plan for how would they prevent or mitigate these risks. How can they protect the communal area and all the people who are in that particular shopping area? So you as a customer, we all could feel a little bit more confident wandering around knowing that it was monitored. Not only that, but if there was an exposure, if you did happen to cross with a pathogen that was not something you wanted to take home with you, you would know immediately. You could take action immediately to try and pursue being healthy again and protect yourself, as opposed to waiting several days later for symptoms to appear. The invisible threats don't have to remain invisible. And at Varro Life Sciences, we're hoping that many people join us in helping to make them visible and manageable and preventable. So I thank you for letting me be here. And it's been a pleasure. My QR code on the screen will link to our website where you can join up with our community as we start to build it out. And again, thanks for letting me come.
Thank you so much for being here today, Addie. It was so great to hear a little bit about what Varro's been up to and how y'all are approaching the very complicated nature of healthware and air quality, air safety.
Yeah, I feel like in the last few years, definitely it's been a conversation that people have been having more. So it's really cool to see all this work that that you guys are putting into tackling this problem. Yeah, thank you.